So I'll go ahead and get started. And hi, everyone. My name is Celine Tien. I will spend a little time introducing myself, but I wanted to know off the top of the workshop that if you have questions at all throughout, please feel free to send it into the chat, or after, I'm going to leave a ton of time for you to directly ask questions. You can invite, come up with your video or just your audio too, so we can engage in conversation. So this is going to be really casual. And I just want to say I've sat through a lot of long, boring workshops in the past. And so I don't want to subject anyone to that. So this is going to be as engaging and short as possible and leave a ton of time for a Q&A. So everybody that's here, welcome to our Flowly workshop on how to master your nervous system. Our goal is to share these tools and sciences that can really help you manage stress, anxiety, chronic pain, or even sleep on a daily basis. And I will say that, our true goal is to give you basically deep relaxation each day, because that ability to recover, spend time in relaxation mode is incredibly beneficial for your health. So we will cover the science of the nervous system today, but I also want you to be able to walk away with actual new ideas and tools that you can use in each day starting tomorrow. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm the founder and CEO of Flowly. It's a National Institutes of Health-backed mobile platform for pain, anxiety, and stress management. I'm also a researcher and principal investigator on NIH and National Institute of Drug Abuse-backed clinical trials, studying the use of new technologies like VR for reducing pain and medication usage. I also work with an incredible team of clinical and scientific advisors, professors, and doctors at University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and USC, where we look at all these tools and science I'm going to share with you today. So before we can talk about mastering your nervous system, we have to understand, what is the nervous system? The autonomic nervous system is a key component of your overall system, and it really controls all these unconscious bodily reactions you have. So these could be like heart rate, blood pressure, your breathing rate, even sexual arousal is all part of the autonomic nervous system. So you can think of the system in two parts. There's the sympathetic system, which is the one in red you see. And then there's a parasympathetic system, the blue side that you see. The sympathetic system, just for convenience, I'm just going to dub it the fight, flight mode. It's really the fight, freeze, or flight mode, but we'll just say fight or flight mode for now. The parasympathetic system, you can also think of as the rest, digest, and recovery mode. So I'll probably refer to it as the rest and digest mode. And we're going to break it down. So what is the sympathetic system? Basically, when your body believes there is a threat, it activates its fight or flight mode, thus this tiger. And this is a really good way. It seems really primitive, but it's also a really clear way to explain it, which is, imagine you are in the wild. You see a tiger about to pounce on you. Immediately your heart rate goes up, your body produces all of these stress hormones, your muscle tension increases, your blood pressure is elevated, and your body's basically getting ready to fight the tiger, run away from it, or just completely shut down. That's your fight or flight mode. That's your sympathetic system at work. And it's actually incredibly helpful in these certain situations where you want to defend yourself or run away from a situation. So it's a really critical and pivotal part of your autonomic nervous system. However, after you're in this sort of like fight or flight mode and you've escaped from the tiger, you need to recover. So your body goes into what we call the parasympathetic state, and that's your rest, digest, and recovery mode. This is where your body is like getting calmed down, it's relaxed, your heart rate decreases, and your body is able to really step back and heal and recover in safety. This is your parasympathetic mode. So what causes your brain and body to activate fight or flight mode? And it's really when it gets introduced to a threat. And it's interesting because some people have heard of this fight or flight mode and they think about, oh, there's a threat, I respond to it. But few people actually differentiate these different types of threat. There's the physical threat, which is like encountering a tiger, or it could even be like bacteria, parasites, encountering people we think are dangerous. These are physical threats that you can either physically escape from or fight off, or physiologically fight off, like a bacteria or parasite. However, in our day-to-day, we're not mostly encountering physical threats. For most people, they're encountering a lot of mental threats. So mental threats are things like your memories, negative thoughts, insecurities, cognitive distortions, and it can actually be harder to fight off than physical threats. Because whether or not your body's perceiving a physical threat or a mental threat, it's responding in the same way, which is with your fight or flight mode, activating your parasympathetic system. But with a physical threat, you can physically run away or escape. But with a mental threat, it's in your mind. So it's actually really hard to manage. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how do you actually manage a mental threat and how can you respond to it? Because the good news is that when your body responds to both these threats in the same way, that means you can also address them in a similar way. And that means instead of your body going into fight or flight mode, it's activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So that's your rest, digest, and recovery mode. And it might seem kind of hard, like, how do I turn on my parasympathetic mode, my rest and digest mode on command? Well, actually, there is a way. And there's something that is in your body that's kind of like the key to turning off and on your different parts of your nervous system. And it's something called the vagus nerve. So your vagus nerve is actually your 10th cranial nerve. And I just want to say off the top here, you don't need to like memorize any of these terms. It's not important that you know all the details, but it can be helpful to understand like the bigger context here. And basically the vagus nerve in your body, it represents the main part of your parasympathetic system that is like a collection of nerves. It starts at the base of your brain, but it travels like multiple highways throughout your body. And it's transmitting all these pieces of information to your organs. So it's kind of like that mastermind between your brain and all these organ functions. So you can see even on the slide here, it can help affect your heart rate, your insulin secretion in your liver, your stomach acidity, inflammation, your brain, even in your mouth, like what you're tasting, the need to like gag or swallow or cough, and your blood vessels, so lowering your blood pressure. As you can see, your vagus nerve does a lot. And we call all this information and all this activity vagal tone. So basically when I talk about vagal tone, you can just assume I'm talking about your vagus nerve at work. Actually, what you want to be able to learn how to do is activate your vagal tone. So basically increase the amount of activity your vagus nerve is doing. Because the more you're able to activate and increase your vagal tone, the more you can actually start to consciously activate your parasympathetic rest, digest, and recovery mode. And then you can start to basically control all these functions in your body, like your heart rate, inflammation, stress, blood pressure, etc. So you can see how this is actually incredibly powerful. The really cool thing about the vagus nerve is that it's pretty similar to a muscle in that you can actually train it. So basically, when you're learning to increase your vagal tone, you're training your vagus nerve like it's a muscle to be stronger, which is super awesome. And the next question I always get is, okay, how do I actually increase my vagal tone? I don't know why it's saying C-tone there, but it's meant to say vagal tone. And really what this means is there's a variety of things you can do. And I'm going to go through it really quickly and then highlight one. So massages are things that help to increase vagal tone. Eating omega-3 supplements can increase vagal tone. Using cold or heat therapy can be helpful for increasing vagal tone. And exercises like yoga and Tai Chi are also really helpful for doing so. There's one really cool one, and it's humming. Humming and singing at a certain frequency can actually directly activate your vagus nerve to increase that vagal tone. So these are all sort of like different activities and things you can do to build into your daily routine. but I'm going to dive into one specifically because it has a lot to do with the device you guys are all getting. And that is around the idea of increasing your heart rate variability, or HRV. So when I say HRV from now on, assume that I'm talking about heart rate variability. HRV is basically the variance in time between your heartbeats. This can be confusing, so I'm gonna double down on it, don't worry. But again, it's the variance in time between your heartbeats. So a lot of times we think about resting heart rate and people tell you, oh, it's good to have lower heart rate. That's true a lot of times. For heart rate variability, you want it to be high because you want the variability between your heartbeats to be increased. So the best example I can give you is, imagine you were an Olympic track athlete and you're about to run the 100 meters. When you're about to speed up to go and perform and take on the race, your heart quickens up. It speeds up, increases the heart rate, blood pressure, that fight or flight mode to really get you to perform and hit that race. And then immediately after the race, your heart slows down. It's able to relax instantly, turn on your parasympathetic system so your body and your brain can recover. The ability to increase your heart rate and then decrease your heart rate really quickly is an incredible sign of cardiovascular and overall health. That means you're super healthy. That means you're able to increase your heart rate on command when you need to perform, and then lower it when you need to really slow down, sit back, relax, and recover. And heart rate variability is really great for increasing your vagus nerve and your vagal tone. And that's because in cardiology departments, they use heart rate variability to actually measure how strong your vagal tone is. So a lot of times you can think of it as pretty correlated. When you can increase your HRV, you're increasing your overall vagal tone, which then helps you activate your rest, digest, and recovery mode. Okay, so don't worry if you have questions, send it into the Q&A, ask me afterwards. But I'm gonna dive into the next portion, which is what everybody asks. How do I increase my HRV? There's a few steps we've gone through, and so we're getting to the actionable step here, which is that it's really important to know how to increase your HRV, because for a lot of people who have stress, anxiety, pain, their body is living almost in constant fight or flight mode. They're in that sustained state where their heart rate's always high, their blood pressure is pretty high, they're feeling stressed, they're not feeling rested. And learning how to increase your heart rate variability can actually almost force your body into relaxation mode and help it become more flexible in learning when I can perform and when my body needs to step back and relax. So one of the ways you can directly increase your heart rate variability is through breathing. This sounds super simple, and a lot of people roll their eyes like, oh, okay, everybody says to breathe. But if you think about it this way, it makes a lot of sense. Things like your vagus nerve and your heart rate variability are unconscious. You cannot just think, oh, I'm going to increase my HRV, and then your HRV increases. However, breathing is conscious. So you can think, oh, I'm going to slow down my breathing, which then will affect all of these unconscious parts of my body. And specifically within breathing, there's a couple things and techniques you can use to increase your heart rate variability. One of it is paced breathing, which means breathing at different rates. And in future sessions, if you guys are interested, I can go over those specific types of breathing. But actually, the most consistent way to increase your heart rate variability is through something called resonant frequency breathing. And that's what we do in Flowly. We are able to assess what is your baseline breathing rate and then start to measure at which rate for each of you, you're able to increase your own individual heart rate variability. Across all humans, the average is 6 breaths per minute, but everybody is slightly different. So someone on my team is like 5.5. I'm personally a 7 breaths per minute person. You know, there's all these different variations. So we're able to help you identify that breathing rate so that you can learn to breathe with it. And so when the time comes that you need to step back relax and recover, you use that pace breathing, that resonant frequency breathing rate. Now, since it's super relevant to what you guys just received and you're about to use, I'm gonna walk you through how Flowly works and then how it affects your heart rate variability. Give me a shout if you can't see the video, but as you guys have seen, it begins in your phone app. And to actually start a session, you clip on an ear clip sensor that goes onto your earlobe, and you put your phone into the headset. You lean back and you enter all these worlds that are like beautiful and relaxing in of itself. But at the core, I'm gonna pause it right here. You can see that real-time heart rate graph and that breathing guide right on top of it. So that breathing guide is actually the guide that allows you to breathe at pace breathing. I'm gonna give it a pause right there. I saw Rachel raise her hand. Rachel, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, when you were talking about the resonant frequency and the BPM, if you could talk a little bit more about like what that really means.
Yeah, so BPM, for everybody's info, is breaths per minute, right? So it's typically when people talk about BPM, it's how many breaths per minute that you're breathing. And so across most people, that is generally an average of 6 breaths per minute. But each individual has a slightly different breathing rate. The other context you might have heard of BPM is beats per minute. So that refers to resting heart rate. The difference between HRV and resting heart rate is this. Resting heart rate is, I measure your heart rate, let's say in a span of a minute, and then I'll average all the different heart rates you have to give you one score. So it's like, let's say 69 beats per minute. However, 69 is just an average. So actually your heart was beating at different rates all throughout that minute. And that's what heart rate variability is. We're measuring what is the difference. What was the highest heart rate you had and the lowest heart rate you had in that 1 minute. And actually a higher variation is good. Does that make sense? Am I answering your question, Rachel?
Yeah, that helped. Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share screen here again. Perfect. And so here again, that breathing guide is what is calibrated to you individually. So everybody's breathing guide is going to be slightly different, but that heart rate graph is also yours. So that's going to show you what your heart rate is in that moment. I would say go ahead and ignore those 2 numbers on the side. It's not that important information for you right now. The most important thing is being able to look at that shape of the graph. So most people, when they first start Flowly, they've never heard of these concepts, or they have no idea, like, well, what does this even mean? So the best I can describe to you is that heart rate graph might look really flat at first because that's low variability. But if it starts to look like this, kind of like mountains, that means your heart rate variability is increasing, and that's a good sign. And so as you do better and better, the world will actually change around you. So more trees will grow, more flowers will grow in the environment, even more lights will light up in the sky, and will tell you you've entered flow state, which is a state of being really relaxed, but also really focused. And then afterwards, you can go into your data portal and check your numbers. I'm going to give it a moment here and also share with you what some of our Flowly members have experienced in the past, just to give you a sense of how people have used it.
I would like to say that Flowly empowered me how to manage my pain. Flowly empowered my mother to manage her pain. We're no longer on pain medication.
Well, I want you. I can't say it. Excuse me. I just love you guys. I mean, it's been dramatic. Flowly has changed my life. I've become a much calmer person, and I just love it.
So I'll wrap up here because I want to leave a lot of time for questions. I just threw a lot of information out. But we'll talk about, as an ending point, how do you develop this ritual of increasing your heart rate variability, increasing your vagal tone, so that you're basically, at the end of the day, activating your rest and digest mode when you need it. So one thing that is always recommended with the practitioners and doctors we work with, and for sure, always recommend always refer and speak to your own health practitioner about this, is we typically recommend starting your day with a really light yoga, tai chi, or even light stretching session. This could be literally 5 to 20 minutes, whatever you can fit in your day, but some light activity like yoga or stretching is incredibly powerful for activating your nervous system that day. There's also an incredible amount of studies that show taking 1,000 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids is equivalent to, and in many cases even better than taking antidepressants, which is incredible to believe, but there's an incredible amount of studies that back this up. The last thing I will leave you with is that nasal breathing is a big thing we emphasize in Flowly. Nasal breathing means that you inhale through your nose and you also exhale through your nose. The reason we encourage this is because humans are actually designed to nasal breathe. We are not designed to exhale out of our mouth, which is what a lot of people recommend you do. There are some cases of like in athletics and extreme high performance where exhaling through the mouth is helpful, but in your day-to-day life, nasal breathing is probably where you want to really start. And that's because your nose has these structures called turbinates in them. It actually filters bacteria, pollen, and all these grime from the outside air in through your nose so that you're taking in more oxygen and cleaner air. Your nose is also able to filter temperature better. So it's actually able to acclimate the air that you're intaking from the outside into one that your body can more readily accept. And it keeps your lungs more moist than if you were to basically exhale and inhale through your mouth. People who mouth breathe excessively, their heads actually change shape because your body was not designed to mouth breathe. So you'll notice in Flowly, we start to encourage you to try and nasal breathe in Flowly and outside of it, but at your own level and at your own comfort. So I would recommend really taking some time to think about how can I implement even 5 minutes of one of these activities to help me activate my parasympathetic system each day. And then that will slowly build into a ritual you can use every single day of your life. Okay, awesome. That's what I have planned for us today. I wanted to keep it super short and sweet. And I'm gonna invite Jamie up as Jamie has raised her hand. Here we go. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, thank you. That was great. That was really helpful. One thing I have a question about, just like about the device itself. So I've actually, this was my first time using a virtual reality device. So on the outside, like where the Flowly logo is on the headset, there's like this smaller like piece that comes on and off. What is the purpose of that? Is it okay if that's off? Is that supposed to be on or off?
Yeah, are we talking about this sort of magnetic piece?
Correct. Yes, the magnetic piece.
Yeah. So that's something that you can put on and off depending on your phone, because some phones, especially the older phones, sometimes they heat up. So you can actually take it off and it will cool off easily. So it's more for air ventilation. For most phones, you don't need it, but sometimes if you do, you can slip it off. It's just magnetic.
Excellent. Thank you.
The other thing is, for some of the other folks that are in the room today, I really recommend choosing a consistent time of day to do these practices. So Flowly might be the logical place to start because you have the device. And so I would say choose one time of day each day that you know you'll have even 5 minutes to touch it. And for most people, that's before they go to bed. For some people, that's when they wake up first thing in the morning. So you can actually lie back in bed, prop your head up with pillows, get super comfortable. If the weight of the headset bothers you, then lean back more. And then you're able to really get into the flow at the same time of day. And that actually helps with your training overall. That helps with training your vagus nerve, just like you would be going to the gym each day. And I super encourage you guys to ask questions. I really hate droning on, but so if you have any questions, shoot it into the Q&A, or if you want to come and ask me on audio, just raise your hand. I'll bring you up.
I'll ask something quick, but you did kind of just address it. A question that a few had asked me was like, how often should I practice this? Like, is once a day the ideal, twice a day? Is it like bad to miss a day? Could you just maybe, I know you touched on that a little bit, say a little bit more about that? Thank you.
Well, first of all, nothing is bad with this practice. I think just the fact that people are opting to use it or having this awareness of training your nervous system is good. So I don't ever want to bring up the idea that missing a day is a bad thing, because we work, for example, with patients on all across the spectrum, and what we encourage is once a day. But if you miss a day, that's okay. That's part of your journey and that's part of your practice. So one big thing in practicing any of these tools is to bring in self-compassion. And I really, really want to encourage that, because I don't want to make anyone feel like it's a pressure to practice these tools. It should actually be a moment of safe space in each of your days. And so if some days you can't get to it, have self-compassion, understand that that's just where you're at that day, and meet your body where it's at. And that's actually the tenet of biofeedback, which is what this type of therapy is called. Biofeedback is where you're able to collect your heart rate and then see it right in the screen and learn how to adjust it. That's what Flowly is. And by inherently doing that, you're seeing where your body is. You're seeing what your heart rate is that day in that moment. So everything we do is about meeting your body and your brain where it's at each day. So not going into it with expectations, but just understanding I'm going into this because it's my daily ritual, and what happens, happens. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Don't be shy. Or afterwards, you can also, one thing I'll encourage you guys to do is you can call or text our team, and I'm going to type it in here, 323-545-3659, and we will help you answer all these questions. Oh, cool. Okay, Jay Shanti asked, can I change my initial breathing pace? I think the first time I did Flowly, I was breathing and holding my breath, so now it seems hard to keep up. Yeah, great question. So at any point, if you want to go and recalibrate your breathing pace, go repeat session number 1. And that's the initial assessment. So you can go ahead and start there. And then in session 6, which you might not have gotten to just yet, that's a more refined test or assessment. So essentially start by redoing session 1. And then once you get to session 6, it will refine itself more. And I will also want to encourage you that sometimes in the beginning, the breathing pace at which you're most able to increase your heart rate variability is not a comfortable one, because you're not used to breathing at this pace. And that is okay. So I would go ahead, go recalibrate your breathing to one that you're comfortable with. And then if you feel like at any point in your journey, I'm wondering if my breathing rate has changed, go back and try it again, because it changes all the time for people. It depends on your age, your hormone level, even your mood each day. Any other questions? Let me know if I answer your question, Jay Shanti, because I can elaborate on it further. If not, I also have a couple tips for people if no questions are coming up. And Rachel, let me know if any other questions come up for you. But I did want to point out that on the top of your headset, there are 3 buttons, and you can play around with it for your focus. So depending on if you're wearing glasses or no glasses, etc. The other thing you can do is, I really want to highlight this actually, in the Flowly app, there is a session you can do without the sensor or the headset. So every session, if you choose the option for a 360 and you do no sensor, you can actually do every session just using your phone. The other thing that has been really popular is in your resources tab on your app, there is a exercise called tap breathing. That's literally 3 minutes of a guided breathing session where you're tapping the screen. And it's really nice for that instant of, oh my gosh, I feel like really overwhelmed right now. I don't have easy access to my headset or my sensor. Let me do this tap breathing session. So again, that's in your resources tab and it's called tap breathing. Any other questions, folks? Okay, I can only assume I did either a horrible job or an incredible job explaining their nervous system and the different tools and how to basically better your nervous system for your overall health. But again, I want to encourage you, if you have any questions, text or call our Flowly team at 323-545-3659. It should also be on your kit box. Or you can email us at contact@flowly.world. And we would be happy to assist you. Just let us know, I'm so-and-so from Nextdoor, I have this question, or can you help me set up? And either someone from my team or Rachel, our amazing health coach, will get on the phone or a text or email to help you out. And feel free to also reach out if you have questions about any of the science or you wanted to learn more. We'll be doing at least 2 or 3 other workshops. And so if you guys are looking for specific things you want to work on the workshop, let us know. We have some fun ones around sleep or the like I have stress right now toolbox that we can put together for each person. Workshops planned, but we're always open to other suggestions. Thank you so much. Awesome. I just saw. Thank you for listening. Thank you everyone for your messages. Jamie, Rachel, I want to check with you, just make sure you guys have any last questions.
Celine, I had a quick question. I know that since we recommend doing Flowly lying down or reclined, if you could maybe just go over really quick how we can not just look at the sky if we're lying down.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, and again, this particular feature, if you have questions, just text us about us. But in the app, so once you are actually in VR, your phone is in the headset and you're seeing the VR environment. If you look all the way down to your feet, you'll see this button that says adjust horizon. And if you stare at it for a couple seconds, you can then look up and reposition where you want to be. So for some people, they actually like to lie completely flat, horizontal on their couch or their bed using Flowly. So they'll do that to adjust their horizon so that when they're lying flat, it looks like they're looking at, the scenery, not just at the sky. So that's a really handy feature to try out. And if nothing I'm saying makes sense, just next time you're in VR, look at your feet and it'll make sense.
Perfect. Thanks, Celine.
Jamie, any last questions?
I have no other questions. I just wanted to echo that I think you did a great job and the explanation, the science behind it is really fascinating. So thank you for sharing. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you guys for taking the time. You all are doing incredible work. I was so happy that we can support you guys in any way possible. So reach out. And I will say this is an incredibly important part of education is learning about your body and learning how to feel more in control of how you feel each day. And it starts not just at the mind, but it actually starts with your body. And what you do in Flowly each day is considered a bottom-up approach. So learning how to literally physiologically adjust your nervous system to then affect your mind and your body. And we're taught like math and English and all these incredibly important topics in school. But interestingly, we're never taught some of the basic things like how do we manipulate our nervous system to make us feel better? How do we breathe in the right way? So I super encourage anybody that has questions to please reach out. And I hope we can be a part of your safe space and healing and or recovery journey each day. So thank you so much. I'm going to log off now. And if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.